Okay. Color me interested. One Piece chapter 1111 reaction slash review, because this typically isn't really a review. It's like a blind reaction. Longtime viewers of the channel know how that goes. We got some newer people that have stumbled across some of the videos. So just quick explanation, reviewing One Piece from the very beginning as a blind reaction, as an unspoiled reader. Now, with that being said, I do have some takeaways from this. Like, the first thing that really stands out to me is the Straw Hats need a power up. Like, this chapter was hyped, don't get me wrong, but like, I kind of feel like they need a power up because like the elders are here and Luffy is like the main one doing the heavy lifting here. And like, I know Dory and Brogy showed up to help Luffy, and that's clutch that he's getting help from the Giants. That's big time clutch. But this is one of those times where like I'm looking at it and I'm going, Zoro was sitting there struggling with Rob Lucci. And don't get me wrong, like Rob Lucci is a lot stronger than he was in Water 7. Like he's a lot stronger. So you got to give props where props are due. But it's one of those things where if you're really going to support Luffy and he's going up against monsters like the Five Elders and eventually someone like Emu, it's one of those things like Luffy can't hard carry. Because one of the beauties, in my opinion, at least before Wano, because I feel like in Wano it began to shift a little bit. Maybe even Cake Island. I'll say Wano. But one of the beauties with the Straw Hats, in my opinion, was that they were balanced. Like, you knew Luffy was stronger than everybody, but at the same time, like, you looked at it and like everybody pulled their weight. It wasn't anything where you looked at the Straw Hats and you said, oh, okay, well, maybe this is a situation where like Luffy's going to have to bail everybody out, or there's just this monstrous gap between the characters. I feel like Oda has a power creeping problem on his hands right now, because like the villains are getting up there and Luffy's definitely keeping pace. He's behind, which is good. You want that for your protagonist because it gives them something to strive for. But like the supporting characters, they got to step up. And like it feels like Haki's the only way that they're going to be able to close that gap as quickly, because they're naturally talented as they are. And like we make like the arguments like this character, Zoro might have this, Nami might have this, Sanji might have this. Like we make the arguments, but this chapter for me really put that into perspective, because the whole time I'm watching, it's like the net's closing in. You got one of the elders, they're looking down at Jinbe. You got Zoro sitting there struggling with Rob Lucci. He's got to go in for another attack against the guy. And then Jinbe's like, hey man, we got to get out of here. And it's one of those things where it's like, you've been fighting this long. You should have finished Rob Lucci off. Like I was sucking Zoro off before, and then as I went through, and this is part of why the new reactions taken as long as it did, I went back and I reread Egghead from the very beginning, and I just wanted to see whether or not there is something I missed, and that's something that stood out to me. Like they've had different battles and everything, but after I put some distance between the last time we saw Zoro and this chapter and just kind of read it with fresh eyes, I went from like, oh, this is super impressive to, oh my God, red flag alert. So curious to see how Oda addressed this. Now, one of the things we get is a dangerous ideology by one of the elders that Rob Lucci is speaking to, because he gets asked like, hey, where's York? And he's given the status update, like the Straw Hats are here. Kaku is over here. One of the Vegapunks is on this side, 2 Vegapunks on this side. And it's one of the times where the ideology just leaks out, because he's like, can you save my partner? Can you make sure that you don't injure him? He's in the command room. And Rob Lucci is just flat out told, hey, it may not be possible, fam. Sometimes you step on insects. It just happens. It's not something that you go in and think, oh, there's an ant, I better not step on it. You don't even recognize it. And to a degree, that is right. Like, how many times have you walked and never realize that you stepped on a bug or whatever. Like, you just don't even think to look down sometimes. Like, there are times where, like, I'll be jogging or something through the neighborhood and I don't think like, oh my God, oops, there's a bug or a beetle or something. Nope. Like, I jog around the lake and I don't even think twice about it. I'm just looking ahead. And so that is true, but these are not bugs. This is human life and these are subordinates. And it just shows you what Oda's saying. And I kind of feel like, and I might be getting ahead of myself, I kind of feel like what Oda's doing here is he's setting the stage potentially for these pirates that work underneath the people in the world government. Eventually, they're going to get to a point where they realize, hey, the government doesn't care about me. They've never cared about me. I've just been a tool, a means to end. I kind of feel like that's where Oda's going. It's going to take some characters a little longer than normal. Like, I feel like that's kind of building towards like a revolution, not just the revolutionaries, but potentially just the pirates in general. And part of the reason I started thinking about this is like later on in the chapter, one of the elders is saying like, we have to kill Luffy before you start calling him something else. And like, obviously it's like they don't want him to be called Nika the Sun God or Joy Boy 2.0 or anything like that. But like, Luffy stands for something bigger than just freedom. And I feel like that's where this is going. I feel like this is where Oda's kind of setting that stage at. And the other thing about this is, as Oda manages to just give you all these dark moments in terms of like the language that you get, he also manages to, and it never fails to impress me with this. Again, we're 1,000 chapters in, 1,111 chapters in. He still manages to get that perfect balance of serious tone when it needs to be serious, but then slip in comedy. Because this whole moment with Luffy and Dory and Brogy, it's just one of those things where the back and forth banter, it just feels so natural. Like, they're blowing the horn, they're giving the signal. They're like, yeah, we saw that you were being surrounded by the world government. We're like, hey, we just want to go help. And it's a nice payoff because it just makes you go back to Little Garden and realize, like, had Luffy and them handled things differently, they might be dead right here. And so I do like that. And yet at the same time, it's one of those things where like Oda manages to encapsulate this in a way where it doesn't take away the seriousness of the situation. And he managed to get that right balance, because right when they blow that air horn signal with that big horn and they're telling Luffy like, hey, Sanji told us that you need to go around to the back and this is how you get there, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As that's going on, you got one of the elders like, nope, we got to just stop this guy right now. And that's where Luffy just kicks into gear as Dory and Brogy begin to fight. And you get the moment where like, Luffy looks like he's freaking out, eyes pop out the back of his head, etc. You see like the Gear 5 powers flaring up and everything. And then all of a sudden, the island starts pulsating. Dory and Brogy are like, dude, like, your body's kind of funny. And what we see after this is that as Dory and Brogy are blocking one of the attacks, and the elder just shoots off, I believe that was Saturn, shoots off this attack, these balls. Luffy all of a sudden spawns a bat and a paintbrush. He makes a helmet, and all of a sudden he's like Aaron Judge or whatever baseball player you want to think of. All of a sudden he's got the baseball and he's knocking these beads, explosions back. And it sets off this giant explosion, and he's got this cartoonish face on him. And I like it. I like it a lot just because of the fact that, like, that's the humor element. But as this is going on, you just see how much of a monster that the elders are. Because Dory and Bro are like, yo, this is good, man. Good shot. And then Luffy's like, nope, we got to get out of here now. Because, dude, that didn't kill them. They're immortal. And this is one of those moments where, again, it speaks volumes to how overpowered they are, because Luffy's saying, let's hurry. you can count on, I might be mistaken, but you can count on one hand the number of times Luffy has sat there and told his crew or anybody with him, we need to get out of here, let's run. Luffy, most of the times, Luffy's sitting there ready to throw hands. He's like, dude, I'm at my limit, we're getting out of here now. And so you see Luffy, Dory, and Brogy, they're running away. Then we jump over, we get Nami getting the update. We see what's going on with Bonnie. Sanji is making his way over to the ship. York is tied up. And as this is going on, something massive ends up making its way towards the island. So you're getting more support. And this looks like this was that giant monster that Luffy and company ended up discovering when they first ended up getting on Egghead. And what I find interesting is that might have been a Chekhov's gun, because I thought like, okay, we might see this later because how One Piece does things. As in like, okay, we'll see this like 50, 60, 70, 80 chapters later. No, Oda's like, nope, I'm pulling the trigger now. I mean, I don't mind that extra pacing there. But what's fascinating about this is that if Egghead's going to get destroyed, and I feel like that's where this is going. If Egghead is going to get destroyed, Oda's making sure to go out with a bang here. And like that giant monster is saying, sorry, Joy Boy. So it's definitely resonating with Luffy. And this is one of those times where I kind of want to see Luffy go back to Fishman Island. Because I feel like now that, you know, he's got Gear 5 awakened, something is going to end up happening. Because when he was in Fishman Island, there was a resonance there, if you will. So I am curious about that. I am also curious about Kizaru because, you know, he's like, okay, you know, he's deeply wounded. And yet at the same time, like, I feel like those are crocodile tears. I don't think when he says, let me rest, he's being fully sincere because he's covering his face up. And I don't think that's out of shame. I feel like that's out of character. I feel like Kizaru is up to something. But my chapter question for you guys is going to be, do you agree with me that the Straw Hats really need Haki? Let me know down in the comment section below. But as always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Have an awesome day, guys.